Okay. It's October 26th, special city council meeting. So we'll do the roll call. Ryland, Jim, Councilor Phillips,
Here.
Richards,
Here.
and Kraus.
Here.
Okay, we have two items on our agenda tonight. Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Any comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
You guys got a council resolution, right?
Yeah, I just, comment I wanted to make
I did
is
not.
that, on the whereas. Which is the 1 to 3rd whereas, it says that council member Bergner's current term expires on January 3rd, 2023.
Yeah, that's. So December,
The first one's right, where it says December
Yeah.
31st, and so it should have been, yeah, I don't know what that was there, so.
December 2024,
25.
and I thought I shared that already, but
Should be 25, shouldn't it?
No, she's gonna expire on the 24th, the new person takes effect, 1st of January, 2025.
Here she started as
Or-
January 2020,
Right, no. I-
21 it was, yeah.
Yeah, so, but I'm just saying, it's all the way through next year, which is 24, and then
25.
so it ends on.
January 3rd at 25.
Well, that would be the new person would take place, but do you have it right on the top with the term expiring December 31st, at the very top is correct? Go up to the resolution. Here, go up to the resolution part of
Yeah,
it.
no, I see that, but it's, her
But
term expires.
But
Yeah.
it should be would have
December.
expired.
Yeah, you could say, yeah, would have expired, well, the new person comes in January 3rd, 2025, however that.
Yes, okay.
Island.
So it's January 3, 2025, December 31st, 2024,
Yeah,
and then October should be 2023.
Joe Palin is in the waiting room.
Joe, yeah.
Thank you.
yeah, so that was just a
Okay.
little bit off on that, so, and they were both the same, I got two of them, but they were both,
We'll make sure that gets changed on Monday when Renee gets back.
yeah.
Okay. Feel wonderful. So, I'll make a motion. We approve resolution 2023-28
With the correction,
with the, as amended.
as amended. I'll second that.
So with that discussion, we should discuss the, yeah, we can.
If you want.
Yeah,
You got your
okay,
notes
thank
on
you. Yeah. So with that, we can,
Mayor, you didn't vote on it, I don't think. You didn't call the vote.
what's that?
We have to
do discussion first,
Oh,
Right.
right, so it's,
So the discussion is about the replacement of Dana. We can either discuss that before the motion. I mean, the motion itself, the resolution is a pretty straightforward motion, but we should have some discussion after that, just to see how we're going to discuss how about the replacement process.
I think that for the discussion on that one, I think we've had a precedent on how we've replaced people that there has been on council in the past. Because, you know, I went up and did the rest, so we'll have, I would think we should have, interviews and people that there are.
We can do that. There's always been two ways of appointing with the council approval or doing the interview and applications. It takes a bit longer to go through that process and everything, so. But
I'd
there
make a
is,
motion that-
Go ahead
so,
and make a motion.
I'd make a motion that we do the application process.
I'll second that.
well, let's take care of this other motion then
Okay.
first. Let's go ahead and, all those in favor of the motion 2023-28 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
As far as, the discussion of replacement, do you want to say your motion now?
Okay, yep. I make a motion that we go through the application process and council votes.
I second
on the
that.
applications.
I think that's, we've done that in the past. It just takes a little more time versus appointing somebody but that's fine too, if that's the way the council wants to do that, so. Any other comments? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So we will. I'll work with Renee and work through, we have to go back and find the forms we used previously. I'm sure there's someplace in the files. Should we come back with a time schedule or timeline for interviews and try and have it done by the 21st of November?
Good to me.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So we may have to have a special meeting in that,
Mhm.
if we, for the interviews at least,
Mhm.
and make a decision on the 21st.
Yeah.
In the waiting room. Thank you. There's only 5 steps away.
All right, all in favor of the motion to proceed with taking applications and appointing Dana's replacement at the November 21st meeting, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Approved. Okay. Next item is discussing the Two Sisters development request for footing and foundation approval. And with that, in your packet was a lot of information and drawings, but essentially it's the first 2 pages of the memo that Bill put together. Kind of explaining what has happened and transpired so far to date. So,
I have a question. Is Joe on mute or is it just?
Yeah, Joe.
Joe, you want to unmute?
I don't think I'm muted. Can't you hear me?
Okay,
Yeah, he's good. Here, I can press that down.
I got that, so we can at least see mine.
just because the cursor's on there.
Yeah.
There you go, okay.
Okay, good.
There was no one else in the waiting room, right?
Nope.
Okay.
I think everybody's in.
You know what? Maybe I'll log in. Watch.
Joe, thank you for joining us.
Yes.
So, would you want to just go through the memo and explain, the first part of it and the second part of your memo, essentially 2 parts?
Yeah, the purpose of the memo is really to lay out the situation. The developer has submitted their site plans, and I have reviewed and approved those site plans just recently, in fact, within the last few days. And they are asking if the city will allow them to move forward with construction of the site improvements within or are associated with their development, and those site improvements essentially include some sanitary sewer and water main construction, some storm sewer and stormwater pond construction, site mass grading, and then construction of some driveway accesses and parking lots. About 95% of what they're proposing to do is located on their lot, and then there are some sewer and water improvements that extend out into the right-of-way that they are required to essentially, make connections to the existing infrastructure. So they're asking that we allow them to do that, along with asking the building official to grant them approval of a foundation and footings permit that would allow them to essentially construct the building foundations and footings and insulate it and backfill it yet this fall before winter freeze up. The developer's goal is to complete the site grading work as well as the building foundation work again before winter, and then they would tentatively come back in like March and start building the building. The caveat to this is, or the issue with this is that we need a development agreement for the site to address some of the developer's financial obligations and other obligations that need to be assembled and incorporated into a development agreement that essentially protects both the developer and the city. And so typically we don't allow developers to do a lot of this work until the development agreement is in place, but the developer is asking that, given the time of year and the length of time that they've been kind of working on this, if the city would allow this to move forward based on the reviews that have been completed to date, and the understanding that they would work with the city to complete the development agreement.
How soon would that development agreement be finished?
I think that we would be working on it. Mike would lead the charge on that, but we'd be working on that probably over the next month. Sometimes it takes a while for them to come together, but I think ideally within the next month it would be completed. Is that reasonable, Mike?
It just depends. I mean, it's typically I draft the development agreements for most of my cities, but the information in the development agreement is largely engineering information. So, like grading, for example, I would, as long as we have cost estimates and the necessary information that needs to be plugged into the agreement, then yes, a month is reasonable. What happens frequently, and I have not been a part of this project up until a few days ago, but what frequently happens is there's still, there's a meeting of the minds between the parties, but there's just more work that needs to be done to be able to complete that document. And I just don't know where we're at with that. I read Joe's letter, the most recent two letters, and it seems like the issues are fairly resolved at this point, but I don't know that. And then, none of the other terms of the agreement have really been discussed, like financial security and that kind of thing, or payment of city costs. And, I don't think there'd be parkland dedication for this because it's industrial property, but other issues like, typical development agreement issues. So yes, usually, but I can't, not guaranteeing anything, it'll just kind of depend.
And that's really the developer's concern. They just want to expedite the process and start to get under construction. It's already October 26th, and that freeze up in sometime typically in December is coming quickly, and they've got a fair amount of work that they want to advance. And so I'm simply bringing forth the developer's request to kind of facilitate development on their schedule. Without a development agreement in place, but having complete the site review process that, really addressed a lot of the development agreement items or issues that need to really be discussed within the development agreement.
I guess I had a question on this. We're just looking at the go ahead for that part of construction. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes,
Agreed.
and the building official would only be issuing a partial building permit just for the foundations and footings. And I have reviewed the site plans and have accepted them based on what was just submitted here, I think Monday. So,
So for the installation of you're gonna insulate that pipe that there is for the water, because are you gonna go down 7 feet? Because you're gonna insulate it at 6.5, right?
Yes.
Okay, because the other thing going through the stuff that you had done, Joe. Looking at the WAC and some of those things are the ERUs. There's a little bit of some conflict, but we're not looking at that tonight. We're just looking at the other part. Is that correct?
Right.
that is
Okay, 'cause I
correct.
didn't
That,
want to get into that, so.
We
Yeah,
also,
that's another discussion, but it's been somewhat resolved as far as what we were originally told about the ERU, so. But just get back to the subject here, and Joe's, and you may have mentioned it too, that they're looking for a permission to proceed, but there'd be what comes out of the meeting, there'd be a written position or written permission only, identifying this footing, and it's not a verbal commitment, but it would be documented in a letter if we were to agree with it. So there is some leverage, I guess you would, but that as far as given permission to do it.
In other words, I want you guys to move ahead. Okay, I mean, I'm not against any of that stuff at all, okay? I was looking at some of the other documents that were on there when you're looking at water usage and that, and there were some conflicting, numbers, and if we don't need to get into that, we can get into that later on what's going on with that. So that was the other thing that I had.
That's for another day if it comes back. to
Yeah,
the council.
so,
Cause I'm
okay.
assuming those details would then be in the agreement.
yeah. And
Well,
we would, we had hoped to use the original development agreement that was drafted in 2012 for that plot, and issue an amendment to that agreement to handle the development on lot C or whatever that lot is. So just to further it along and speed the process up. So all the detail would be handled in an addendum to
Right, there's the
development.
original development agreement in 2012 was for that lot. And so the thought is, rather than writing a whole completely new one, they would just add an appendix covering all the details necessary. Just add it to that current development agreement. That's what's being proposed.
okay, I mean, and again, we're
That's not
back to the 2012 agreement that we've looked at
Right.
before, right? So we're into that agreement, that's a part of that, so.
So that's what's being proposed now.
Okay.
We still have to have those discussions back and forth, but yeah. But tonight we're just looking at allowing them or giving them permission to proceed with the footings and the foundation.
So I mean, looking at that is one thing. I want to get into this other stuff a little bit deeper when we get into that, but we'll let that take its course of what
Right.
there is
We'll come back to the
and look at
council.
it at that time, so.
Well, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve or give permission and approve for the contractor developer to proceed with the footings and the foundation.
Second.
Second. Any other comments? I think it's
just that Michael need to put together that letter. The authorization, should the city approve it, would be
Well, I think,
expressed through the, go ahead. Mike.
yeah, I apologize, Joe. I think it might need to, I mean, if it's a building official, if it's a building permit that's being granted, I think the building official might need to write it. I honestly don't know. I think I guess what I'll say about this is there is some risk to this. You know, when Jim was saying, you know, we're going to get into these issues later. Well, if we get into the issues later and we can't resolve any conflicts, they'll have built a substantial, portion of this building, and the city will lose some leverage to negotiate there. So just know that I haven't been involved enough to know if there's going to be any conflicts really. And I'm not too keen on the original development agreement. But we can work through it. That's all I could say. I mean, I can do a short letter. But I probably should come from your building official, or at least there should be an attachment to that from the building official that includes the partial permit. So we would
Well,
need
of
to do
course,
that.
I will issue a letter approving the site plan and the building official will issue a partial building permit. All I think we're asking you to do, Mike, is put together a letter that says, the city council has, if they decide to do that, this, city council is allowing you to move forward with these things, again, contingent upon the city engineer and the city building official approval of the permits, but do this work in advance of issuance or execution of the development agreement, and doing so is really at the risk of the developer.
The other thing I'd like to do is so we don't get caught with a precedence for this and have somebody follow up, to be able to put in a letter due to the weather and closeness for us to be able to get into it this time of year. So that anybody else comes in will have to follow the proper protocol that there is, instead of having an exemption to be able to work ahead. Just to have that written, okay, as being a part of that, so.
Because we don't typically.
Yeah, we don't want to have this as being a precedent. Anybody wants to come in can do the same thing. But due to the time of year and what you guys are trying to get established, to make that exception, to have that in the writing that's there, so it protects us.
Yes.
Well, I'm not sure what to write about that. I mean, are you saying you want in the letter to the developer, in this case, you want to write a statement that this is an exception?
Yeah, because otherwise the city might always be held to this. But I want the city to go back to what we always have in the city, to do it the right way, but we're making an exception to this because of the lateness of the season, to be able to get does that make sense, Ryland?
Okay, I'll just reference the lateness of the season as the basis for the exception. I guess that's where I was confused, okay, I understand.
And that way, at least it's documented and everybody has that, so it's not used against the city. We're trying to be helpful to you guys, but I want to protect the city for what's going on.
And it gives us documentation to look back on in case
Right.
it gets used.
Yeah. And it isn't a building permit, because that's what we had discussed is, if we want to work with the city, absolutely, and so that it's fair for everybody. And I mean, if you guys don't get what you want, we don't have a building permit. We can't build a building.
Yeah, no, and we want you guys to move ahead. I mean, we're really excited about what you guys are doing, I mean, we want to see it. I think it's gonna be great for the city. So we're excited to do that. We're just trying to make sure that we're covered and protected.
Right, so cooking too much at home, you could tell.
Practicing the new menu, huh?
So the building plans have been submitted to CMS, so they are in the process. They've been working on it about a week now, I'm guessing, so it's coming along, and so that building permit should be hopefully approved soon, or as much time as it takes, but this is just pulling that couple sheets out of the drawing to approve.
And then that's what I'm saying. I want this to move ahead. I think everybody does, to be able to get this going, so.
All right. So, I think we have an understanding of who's going to jointly put letters together and document everything, and also make a clarification due to the late season, the rationale for doing this too, so. Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Super. That's approved. Excellent.
Can we move dirt tomorrow?
We move dirt tomorrow. Well, talk to Joe, let Joe be the one.
Joe, can we move dirt tomorrow?
Yes. I do have a letter that I will send out. That indicates that you do have, or I have approved the, site utility and grading plans, for the site. Obviously, the building official also would need to do that for the footings and foundations, but in terms of the site utilities, yes. Of course, Michael need to send out that letter too, just kind of documenting our discussion tonight. And the fact that, you know, you are essentially moving forward at your risk. We don't have a executed development agreement, and, you know, you understand that.
Yeah, that's clear, I think that's clearly understood. We don't have that, but it is, will be started very shortly, and it shouldn't be a lengthy time to get that, but that's in process too, so.
And this is footings. right?
Yeah,
All
footings,
right. With that,
footings and time.
a motion to adjourn,
Second.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
6:58. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
thank you, thank you, thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Joel.
Good night.
Good night.
Got some calls to make.
Yeah, we're anxious to see what's going on over there, so I think it's great.
Yeah,
How exciting.
Morning, so.
Thank you, Ryland.
Okay.
Really appreciate it.
And you're closed tomorrow.